morning, allow us to speak concerning the theme of our health board, that even in pain, our God still cares. Praise be to God. When I sat here, I reminded in 2002, we had a talk, the then youth of Makupa, and during our youth week, and we invited Mrs. Thairo to give us a health talk. And he gave us a talk on nutrition, and she talked to us about some of the ailments that comes out of lack of better or good nutrition. She gave us a story, and I still remember the story. She told us a story of guys who lives, or a tribe that lives in Himalayas, who for the first time they saw a cock drink was when the researchers went there to do a research on how they could survive on one meal of guavas throughout. They never had 2 meals. And you can imagine how cold Himalayas is. I don't know whether she can still remember the story. And she told us by the time the research was over, for the first time in that community, cancer was discovered. Because they were given coke drinks and those synthetic and whatever foods that were there. And pain visited the community out of poor dieting. This morning, as we explore on the topic whether God or how God still cares in our pain, I would wish to submit and start by submitting to you that pain is inevitable in our lives. And we are not talking about pain of ailments or lack, or we are talking about the holistic topic of pain. Because what you call pain to you is not what I call pain to myself. What actually deprives you and what inflicts pain on you might not be the same thing that inflicts pain on in my life. When we are talking about pain, what is pain? Is it the feeling that we feel when we are pricked by something? What is this pain? Allow me just to define it the simplest way that I can. Okay. I'm told to use this one, but I find myself resting properly while I'm using this one. Nevertheless, the chairman has spoken, and I must obey the chairman. He always intimidates me that I married her treasurer. He was the chairman of the youth in Likoni, and she was a treasurer. So I'm always intimidated, and for that reason, I'll have to obey and to oblige. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what is this that we call pain? To me, pain is not just a feeling because we have an infection. Pain is being deprived of that thing which you are expecting. It is the interruption of flow of those normalcies in life. It is that thing that comes into your life to inhibit your joy, to curtail even your progress, and to deny you the pathway or that expectation which you are expecting. Solomon would put it this way: even the delay of hope can make a heart sick. And therefore, when you are talking about pain, we are not just talking about sicknesses that are visiting us every now and then. We are talking about those instances in life which we encounter, be it individually, corporately, or otherwise. Because pain is so broad and is so deep, and it is everywhere and it is with everyone. When I was in Polytechnic, Geshoke used to be on a different department with Wangombe, but there's something that Wangombe teaches the students. And my teacher in mechanical engineering taught me, and it is on the properties of metals or properties of engineering materials. And I was taught, and I don't know why it changed my life and the way I interact with life. Because I was taught that the property of this glass is not the property of these plastics. Yet both of them are engineering materials. They have different capacities, they have different abilities. Some are ductile, some are tough, some are whatever you can call. If I take this glass from up here and I drop it, what do you expect will happen? It will just crack. And what do you think will happen if I take something like that bottle when it is empty? What will happen? What happens when I drop a ball? It bounces back. And that is how we are as individuals. We react differently to different things. When some of us are dropped, they are at home, they bounce back. When others are dropped, what happens? They break. So dropping, you cannot say that dropping is the source of pain. It can be a source of pain to some, whereas to others, it is just like saying, fish is okay in the water. When you tell it to climb the tree and you expect it, don't call it damp. It was not created for that. So when you talk about pain, we talk about different things to different people. What causes you pain is not what causes me pain. Allow me to submit that 99.9% sources of pains are our blessings. The blessing which God blesses you with ends up being the source of your pain. It is that husband whom we came and sang, Newa Emmanuel Tiwa Magendo. You remember that time? You remember that time? And even how your aunties danced during that day, and the gifts that you were given. And then after that, what happens? You know, and you start praying for him. I no longer live with it is that even that education. It is that empowerment. It is that capacity which God has given in your life. When it is interrupted, what happens? It brings about pain in your life. The book of Lamentation, Jeremiah is lamenting because he has had a walk with God as a prophet and as a man of God. He indulged his life with God, and he had never had a life of his own. And therefore, he never expected at any single time he would have an interruption that would show or actually depict God as one who cannot keep his promises. And that is why when you read from chapter 1, he is saying, I am a man of sorrow, because I cannot understand a God of blessing, a God of my calling, a God who has walked with me, who makes me look so big, yet he can visit me all this grief in life. His blessing and his calling, when he tried to relate it with what he was going through, he could not master and understand how God can work through all this. And he was saying he is a man of sorrow. But I realized, and if you wish to go and study the book of Lamentation, it has the sweetest words in the Bible, because it gives us of a man who is in conflict, a man who knows that God cares, but when pain is visited upon him, his mind cannot comprehend how this God who cares so much can visit us all this much pain. Have you ever found yourself in such a situation where this God whom we are talking about, he is unable, or you feel like he's unable to give you that which you've been expecting for all this time? Have you ever gone through this path where people elevate you so high, yet from within and without, you feel so small, and you feel like they hype you? They have wasted you so much that you are not what they talk and they think that you are. Have you ever been like Jeremiah, who is so blessed within, but who is crashing without? Have you ever found yourself that way? Have you ever found yourself that you have whatever it takes to take your children to school, and at some instances you even take them, but what you get back is not commensurate to the much that you have put forth? Have you ever gone through that wife or that husband or that even occupation that you put everything, all your heart, but what you got back was not what you expected? That was how Jeremiah was. And therefore he could not expect, who is this God? But God came to him and told him he will not cast people off away forever. And though he causes us grief, he will come and he will remember us. He is out there for us. He will come and bind our wounds, and he will come and hear us. Last week but one, I had a situation in my house. My smallest girl is called Joy, and she's that person who needs answers and not explanations. She needs, give her, when she asks you, say yes or no. So we were praying for my cousin. I'm from home. I arrived this morning, and beside a bash we had, I went home to see my cousin who arrived from India last Sunday because of cancer. And so she had us praying for her. Then the following day we prayed for her. After prayer she asked, Dad, huyu Mungu tunaomba huwa anasikia? Kaambia ndio. Kasema, oh. Kauliza kwa nini? Si tuliomba juzi tukaombea auntie. Mbona tunaomba leo? Kwani hakusikia? And those are the questions we have. There are two paradigms in our faith. Two paradigms. One that says, God is so powerful, but He's not willing to come into a rescue. He's not willing to come and give us what we are asking. He's not willing to rescue us. The other paradigm is, God is so powerless that even when we are in pain, He is unable to do nothing. And those are the paradigms which keeps on playing in our mind. But look at what Paul is saying. Paul also had a life with God. Paul, after walking with God and after surrendering his life to Christ, he deprived himself of everything. The Bible talks all, and he explained, and I remember the last time I preached here, which is about 9 years ago. That's the last time I was on this pulpit. I remember us diving on the book of Philippians, where Paul is talking about his reason for boasting, because he was born a Hebrew of the Hebrews. He was in a class, he was a lawyer of the lawyers. He was everything. And the Bible says that he was all that any human being would have wished to become in life. But all that he gave up for the sake of Christ. This is the Paul who is writing to the Corinthians. And he's telling them, after giving everything else, now I have come to this Christ, who has given me such a measure of knowledge, depth of wisdom, liberation. He has exalted us so much, and He has made us more than what we could have ever become in life. But nevertheless, He comes and says something that all of us should always relate to, and we can go back to our engineering class. He says, sometimes, and I would wish that you look at that word, and it is the word that I would wish that we read again. He says, we are hard pressed from every side, but we are not crushed. But nevertheless, you know which character you can get from that. Not everything you can place and it remains the same. Teacher Angombe taught me that some of these things, when you press them, you deform them. They are deformed. Some of them you stretch them and they are deformed. And some others you stretch and then they go back to the original shape. Paul is saying, after coming to this Christ, He has made me this person, that I have a character within and without, that when we talk about blessing, it is from without, not from within. We can be so much blessed and very much blessed, but we are never crushed. That means probably God has created in us property of rubber. We have some sort of rubber in ourselves, or something like, let me not talk about those properties of engineering. But we are pressed from every side. And then he goes even deeper. We are perplexed. You cannot be perplexed from without. You are perplexed from within. There are those things that chance within your heart, chance within your spirit, some things that you deals with as an individual. And he says, we have done that. But he says, we are not left in despair. So after you perplex me and you think that I never had a leeway, I'll always have a way out because of how God has made me. He says, we are persecuted but not abandoned. I don't know, many of you have never gone through persecution. I thank God for you. There are some who have gone through persecution where people can say the nastiest thing about you, and tomorrow they see you conducting wamirere here, and they expected you not to do that. There are some who have gone through all that. And finally he says, down, but we are not destroyed. When we are talking about God who cares, we are talking about God who will not stop persecution, who will not stop perplexity, who will not even stop the pressing, who will not stop all those things. But God who gives you a character from within and without, that after you've gone through everything, you come out better than the time that you started. God who ensures that you are not changed by fire which you go through, you are refined by it. God who makes sure, like aluminium, when you are lowered through that load, you come out better. You are polished and you become something which is of more value. God has given you a character that defies what human beings or humanity can talk about. Why? Because He is a God who cares. And every morning, His desire is not for you to be struck down and to fall. It is for you, when you are struck down, people can see you rise up again, and they ask, is he or is she the same person whom we struck down yesterday? That person, when you're so perplexed, people think that you'll never come up again. But then they say, she has 7 lives like a cat. You are that person when you're so persecuted and people think that you throw tantrums. They say, we don't even understand Him, because it is no longer us. It is Christ who lives in us. And the life that we live today, it is not about us. It is about God. Praise be to God. Many a times we don't see that our God cares, because we are so consumed in ourselves. How could He do that to me? This morning I was talking to somebody, and I asked her, what is the greatest blessing that you've ever had in this life besides salvation? And she said, my children. And I asked her, which is the worst pain that you've ever gone through in life? And she said, childbirth. And then, how can the sweetest thing come out the most painful experience? May I say this? If you are a professor, if you are an engineer, whatever you are, even if you are a copy typist, you have invested over 14 years of your life in class. That is not a short time in life. You can remember how many hours that you spent going through those books. Whatever we are, it has taken our time. Whatever we have, it has taken our time. But I'll tell you this as I sit down, that when I want you to look at your problems, at your pain, always remember, pain comes because it is a disruption of where you are going, of what you are expecting, of the normalcy that exists in life. But God is so caring that He ensures that even if you are hit so hard, because some of us, you have been hit so hard, and maybe you lose a loved one, after all is said and done, you are the same person whom God ensured that you are not cast off, simply because you rise up and you tell others, I know because I was there. And I can tell you, God is faithful. Because when my mom, when my dad, when my wife, when my child, when my friend passed on, I was able to rise up again. When you have a sister who has gone for time without husband, you can tell her, soldier on, because God is on the way. When you have any person who come in your life, you always remind them, we are not what we are because of our sheer effort. We are what we are because of what God has imparted and imputed in our lives. Praise be to God. And therefore, should there be any interruption, always remember that God has embedded in your life a character that can defy the beatings and everything that you can go through, the perplexities, the persecution, and the casting downs, because He's a God who can make you rise up again. May the Lord bless His word.